What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? I would like to welcome you all to another edition of Wayne's Perspective, where we operate in discipline, decency, integrity, and respect. And I'm coming through with another video just for you. So, as you can tell by the title, this is going to be talking about Marilyn Mosby. Basically, I do feel that she should be pardoned. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about that, or should I say, I'm going to talk a lot about that. And it's going to be courtesy of an article by Ellie Mistal. And for those of you who watch MSNBC and who watches Roland Martin, you've seen this brother come through with the verbal fire, or should I say the verbal smoke and fire, especially when he's talking about the Supreme Court and politics in general. He usually brings it, especially from a black man's perspective. So, early credit to him for this article and a shout out to him for his, contributions to these subjects because, like I said, he tells it like it is. When you're looking for someone to speak truth to power, you won't find this brother too far behind. So we're going to get into that. And another thing that I want to say is that, of course, like most of you, I heard of Marilyn Mosby during the time when, you know, Freddie Gray was taken from us. That was a few years back, I believe in 2015. I may be off by a year or so, but everybody heard about that. And it had Baltimore as well as the rest of the country in an uproar. And this was, at a time when things were pretty much getting out of hand in terms of, the police and their relationship with black people. We all saw it. We saw it before our very eyes. So, she did her job. She prosecuted the police officer involved in that, and I think all of them were acquitted, if I'm not mistaken. And with that being said, when it comes to that whole case and that whole story, there is a great documentary called Baltimore Rising, and chances are I may revisit that when I finish doing this video. But if you haven't heard of this case, and I'm not sure why you haven't, or if you need like a refresher course, or if you want to revisit this moment in time in history, I definitely recommend checking that documentary out. And me, I'm a big fan of documentaries. So, when it comes to a subject like this, I usually watch them on more than one occasion. So, so outside of that, after the things had died down and stuff like that, I wasn't keeping track of Marilyn Mosby like that. It's only when she got back in the news for what this article is going to go into, that's when I started to, pay attention to more what's going on, as well as, support her efforts at getting pardoned. Um, Also, there's a petition going around to support that pardon, or should I say, there's a petition going around that's pretty much, you know, asking, and some would say demanding that Joe Biden pardon her, which I do support. I support a pardon in this case, and I'm going to put the link to that petition in the description box. If you haven't signed it, go ahead and sign that either while you're listening to this or once the video is over with. So, with all that being said, y'all, we're going to get right into the article. And this is going to be my first time reading it in its entirety. And it's a long one. And it's coming from Ellie Mistal. So it's definitely going to make his points. So let me go ahead and get this shared here for you all. All right. So again, credit to Ellie Mistal for this. This is dated May 14th, 2024 from thenation.com. Says Joe Biden should pardon Marilyn Mosby. While the power of the pardon is fundamentally undemocratic, the president should use it to do some good while he can. All right. Let's see. Give me 1 second, y'all. Okay. Last week, the NAACP sent a letter to Joe Biden asking him to pardon Marilyn Mosby, the former state's attorney for Baltimore. The organization was joined by a host of other Black social justice organizations, including the National Urban League, the National Action Network, and the National Bar Association, the largest legal group of Black attorneys. It's rare to see all these organizations united in support of a prosecutor, but Mosby's case is special. Mosby attracted national attention as a progressive prosecutor for her willingness to charge the 6 police officers involved in the murder of Freddie Gray, a young Black man who was killed while in police custody. And that's what I mentioned at the beginning of the video. But she was also the same old prosecutor who was responsible for the bogus prosecution of Keith Davis Jr., a young Black man who was shot at 32 times by the police. 3 of the bullets landed, and was then charged with a robbery and a murder he didn't commit, and was exonerated and had his charges dismissed only when another prosecutor replaced Mosby in Baltimore last year. I need to take an additional look at that one as well. After leaving office, Mosby was indicted and convicted on 2 counts of perjury and 1 count of making false statements on a loan application. It appears she tried to take advantage of the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, or CARES Act, to withdraw $90,000 from her own retirement account. And let's keep it clear, most people were doing that at the time. So it just wasn't limited to just her. But let's continue on, y'all. I would not necessarily endorse Mosby's prosecutorial record or really any prosecutor's record, but I can support the efforts to see her pardoned nonetheless. Okay, I understand that. That's because I can spot a wrongful prosecution when I see one. Mosby is on the receiving end of a malicious political prosecution over the kind of infraction that normally goes unpunished. The Department of Justice, the same one that has not prosecuted Trump for any of his financial crimes and slow walk charging him in connection with the white domestic terrorist attack on the Capitol, was all over Mosby for fraudulently accessing her own retirement money. The federal prosecutor leading the investigation into Mosby's finances is a man named Leo Wise. Wise and Mosby had run-ins before over Wise's selective investigations into the members of the Congressional Black Caucus and what the NAACP calls his refusal to seek a just outcome for those wrongfully convicted people of color. Many people might know Wise as one of the lead investigators in the DOJ's case against Hunter Biden. Now, I just want to make a few comments now. Eddie Mistal, yeah, anytime he talks about the Department of Justice and particularly Merrick Garland, oh yeah, he goes in. He's still of the belief that Merrick Garland should not be in this position, and I mean, we shall see how things go in terms of his continuous tenure at the Department of Justice. But I do agree with what he said here, and that he did slow walk charging him in connection with the white domestic terrorist attack on the Capitol. Yeah, I do agree with that. They should have been on it, but usually when you got the Democrats in charge, and in this case under a Democratic administration, and based on who they appoint for the attorney general job, they tend to abide by the rules most of the time, which can be a good thing. And in the case of some others, or how others look at it, it may be a bad thing. It just depends on your perspective on the matter. And I said one more thing regarding Merrick Garland before I continue on with this article. I would say, as far as the job he's doing, where he's definitely no Bill Barr, he's definitely not a Jeff Sessions, But I would say this, other people would say he should have moved a little more swiftly when it came to charging Trump. Now, my view is that even though it may seem like it was slow on the surface, I'll say he did his job, or is doing his job, in a sense that when it comes to something like that, as sensitive as a former president of the United States, not saying that you have to be incredibly slow, but you want to be incredibly strategic as well, because what you don't want to do is rush the proceedings or get so ahead of the game that is going to not just blow back on you and make you look bad, but also you're going to get that criticism from a lot of people saying that, okay, did you rush this? Did you do it too fast? Did you do this? Did you do that? You're going to get it from all sides. But then again, when you look at, critics, even if you move at a swift pace, you're going to get feedback, and if you definitely move too slow, like most people say he has been, you're going to get it too. So really it's another situation where, you can't please everybody, which is understandable. But I come from the side of, okay, he shouldn't have rushed this or moved it fast, because that would have been a mistake to begin with. Then again, you get right back into the thought, well, moving too slow would be an issue. Moving swiftly would be an issue. So what's the right course here? The worst case would be not doing anything at all. So, it's just one of them situations where you got to tread carefully. You just got to do that. So continuing on, for me, any case Wise touches a suspect, he should have been drummed out of the DOJ the moment Democrats took power. But Merrick Garland exists, and the Biden administration has committed flagrant malpractice by refusing to get rid of bad prosecutors left behind from the Trump years. Now, I do agree with that. If you have to be subject to some criticism or some words from people. That's one thing. But yeah, I definitely would have got rid of those prosecutors from the Trump era. I mean, I wouldn't have left any of them in place. But that's a whole nother story. Let's continue on. So here we are with Mosby facing as many as 40 years in prison when she is sentenced on May 23rd. That's this Thursday, y'all, as of this video. And with Biden holding the near unchecked power to pardon her. The presidential pardon power is plenary, which means that the president can pardon any person for any federal crime for any reason or no reason at all. It's not subject to congressional veto or Supreme Court review. Biden, like other presidents, consults with the Office of the Pardon Attorney, who is an official inside the DOJ, but the decision is his. Biden could fix the mistake of leaving behind Trump prosecutors by pardoning everybody those prosecutors go after, including Mosby. That's true. If we hadn't just lived through the Donald Trump presidency, and if we weren't staying down the barrel of his possible return, pardoning Mosby would be an easy argument. She's an accomplished Black woman who has the support of all the racial justice organizations. Her crime involved accessing her own money, not stealing from others. And the prosecutor who went after her has a history of going after Black people in power. Pardoning Mosby is an election year win for Biden with organization that he needs to support him. And it costs him functionally nothing to do it. It's politics made simple. I agree with that. Definitely 100%, because if I was in a position, yeah, I would consult with the Office of the Pardon Attorney, but and all of that, but I definitely would issue it. I definitely would, and Ellie Mistal makes some good points here, pardoning Mosby, it is an election year win. I mean, I agree with that. And then this part about the prosecutor who went after her has a history of going after Black people in power. Yes, that's a real thing. And definitely I want to take a little bit an additional look into that to see who that prosecutor is, and this is not a case of everything being racialized. When Ellie Mistal makes a point like that, then there's something behind it. And I'm definitely going to take an additional look at that to see who that prosecutor is, because there ain't no slip of the lip to say this is a prosecutor who goes after only Black people in power, All right. But we did live through Trump, and we know that Trump used and is planning to use the pardon power as a loyalty generator. Biden's decision would likely be viewed in the context of pardons made by his predecessor. Trump used the pardon power corruptly and abusively. He sure did. He pardoned essentially everybody who took the vow of Omerta and kept their mouths shut as they were charged and convicted for crimes they likely committed with Trump's knowledge or even at his direct orders. Trump pardoned his former campaign manager, Paul Manafort, who had been convicted for conspiracy, money laundering, and failing to register as a foreign agent. He pardoned Charles Kushner, father of his son-in-law, Jared, who had been convicted for tax evasion. He pardoned longtime hatchet man Roger Stone, who was indicted for lying to Congress. He pardoned his national security advisor, Michael Flynn, who pleaded guilty to lying to the FBI twice. Let all that sink in, y'all. Trump didn't just pardon all of his cronies who could have implicated him in their crimes. He also used pardons for political effect. Any Black person who could get Kim Kardashian to take their phone call had a pretty good chance of getting a pardon in the Trump administration. Trump would then trot out the Negroes he freed at his campaign rallies and use them as props like he was Abraham Lincoln. Yes, he did do that. But then again, you would have Black people trying to construe that and make it seem like, yeah, man, he down for the Blacks. He down for Black people. Like, whatever. The world in which everybody from Steve Bannon to Lil Wayne can get a pardon, but Mosby might not, is insane, incredibly insane. But it is a classic example of Republicans using maximum power to their advantage. The presidential pardon is the most unchecked form of raw political power in the entire system of government, and we can expect Trump to use it to maximum effect if he forces his way back to the White House. Trump has already made noises about pardoning all of the January 6th insurrectionists who have been incarcerated since their attack. That's crazy to fathom, but he's been saying it, and there ain't no slip of the lip. No slip of the lip. He meant what the hell he said. I'm sure he will. Yep. If Trump gets back in the White House, I think he will pardon every single person who fought for him to overturn the 2020 election and overthrow the government. Think about that for a second. If anyone thinks Biden's pardon restraint will limit Trump's eagerness to pardon domestic terrorists, they simply haven't been paying attention to how Trump operates. Trump is going to do what he's going to do, regardless of what Biden does now. I want to stop Trump from exercising his unlimited ability to pardon those willing to ride for him. But my solution is not to restrain Biden, it's to fix the pardon power. I happen to think that plenary presidential pardons are incongruous with democratic self-government. The pardon power is a holdover from the age of kings and queens when the whims of despots could short circuit an entire legal system. Trump's use of the pardon power while he was in office all but proves that it's a power president should not have. Mm, that would make for an interesting discussion right there. I think very interesting. The justice system makes a ton of mistakes, and I am all for every form of post-conviction review imaginable to exonerate the wrongly convicted, commute the sentences of people who have been railroaded by the system, and free those maliciously targeted by racial, unjust, and unfair laws. But having the power to simply overrule the entire system by fiat, based largely on who is politically connected enough to grab the president's attention, just doesn't sound like the kind of thing that should regularly happen in a country of laws. A pardon is not a reform, but a boon, and our justice system shouldn't be reliant on blessings from on high for it to work properly. Indeed, if Trump pardons the J6 terrorists, that will actually be in keeping with the traditional uses of the pardon power throughout American history. Mass clemency actions were the most famous uses of the power until Gerald Ford pardoned Richard Nixon, George Washington pardoned all members of the Whiskey Rebellion, Andrew Johnson pardoned all Confederate soldiers, Jimmy Carter pardoned all Vietnam draft dodgers. Presidential pardons of mass groups of rebels is, sorry to say, nothing new. Still, if we want to go down the mass pardon road Trump would surely take if he's elected, Biden could also do that. Biden has already pardoned more people than Trump. He just does it without forcing the people he's freed to come to a rally and lick his boots. That's a good point. In late 2023, Biden pardoned thousands of people jailed for simple marijuana possession. That was a good move, but the effect was muted. Most marijuana users are not federal prisoners, but rather have been convicted on state charges, which the president cannot pardon. Biden could be making more use of this expansive power and make more of a political statement while doing it. He could pardon all nonviolent federal drug offenders categorically, or he could commute the sentences of every single prisoner on federal death row and instead change their sentences to life in prison. Or he could pardon federal prisoners over 55 because our prison population is aging faster than the population as a whole, and the chance of recidivism among the elderly is very small. There are lots of ways to skin the category of pardoned cat. It doesn't have to be used for just white people who start a rebellion. Biden could pick nearly any class of people who should not be in a federal penitentiary and free them. Which brings me back to Mosby. Why do we live in a world where Trump will pardon Hannibal Lecter if Lecter could eat 11,000 Democratic voters in Georgia, but Biden hasn't pardoned Mosby already? Presidents can use this power any way they want. Trump did. Why shouldn't Biden? Again, Biden has already pardoned a lot of people, but unlike Trump, he doesn't have a face for his clemency and surrogate spreading the good news of his mercy. Mosby could be that kind of surrogate. She better be at it. Hold on. She better be at it than Rod freaking Blavich, whose sentence Trump commuted. If Democrats aren't going to use the pardon power as brutally and efficiently as Republicans, then Democrats should be trying to get rid of the power. Probably won't happen, but I get what he's saying. I have no more use for powers only Republicans are allowed to use for their maximum effect. I have no more use for rulers only Democrats follow. I think Biden should pardon every nonviolent federal convict he can get his hands on until Republicans force him to stop through a constitutional amendment to limit his use of power. Then he should turn around, sign the amendment, and campaign across the country for it to be ratified. I think presidential pardons should be stopped, but since they exist, Mosby should get one. Democrats should use the power they have when they have it because Republicans always use every stitch of power they can get their hands on. That's a true statement. Mosby was prosecuted because she's a black woman Democrat, so Democrats should have her back. That's true. If Republicans take over, they will open the jails to free their people. Biden could, at the very least, be the president who pardons black people who can't rap. Okay. All right. So again, shout out to Ellie Mistar for this article. It was lengthy, but a very, very good one. And I'm going to include it in the description box along with the petition to sign. But other than that, y'all, I mean, I agree largely with everything that he said. And overall, I do think she should be pardoned. It would be crazy for her to get all of those years in prison just for doing what other Americans were doing during the pandemic. And it wasn't like she was doing it in a fraudulent manner. She was taking money for her own retirement account. I will hope that there's some evidence to back this up. I'm sure there is, which may or may not have came out during the court proceedings, if I'm not mistaken. But we shall see what happens. And I'm definitely going to keep track of this, because on May 23rd, I'm going to be waiting to see what's happening, in terms of, you know, what time she's going to be given. Hopefully she doesn't get sentenced. I think she is scheduled to get sentenced, but I hope it doesn't go through, based on everything that I just read and my understanding of the case itself. And last but not least, I have no problem admitting that I'm a Joe Biden supporter. I have no problem admitting that I am a Democrat. Is he perfect? No. But then again, no president in the history of the United States has been perfect. No president will ever be perfect. And contrary to what some people may think, Donald Trump was not perfect. The P in Trump does not stand for perfect. Let's remember that. Okay. So with all that being said, I know Joe Biden might not hear this, but my last words here, she deserves a pardon. I think she should be pardoned with the quickness. Now, if he doesn't do that, then I'm not going to be on this trip talking about well, I'm going to vote for the Republican candidate. No, no, no. Let's just say that I'll be disappointed, very disappointed, but it's not going to make me change my political affiliation or who I'm voting for in November. I just be real disappointed that he didn't take that step, and it should not be left to somebody else to do it. So he should do it as soon as he can. So, y'all, with all that being said, if you like what you heard and you're ready to become part of Team Discipline, go ahead and hit that like button and drop some comments if you're feeling the content. Let me know what you think. Do you think she deserves a pardon or not? Let me know. And last but not least, hit that subscribe button along with the bell so you're notified when I drop new videos. And until next time, my people, take care of yourselves and remember the power of the mind is valuable.